Welcome back to Discourse, the weekly occult and esoteric podcast hosted by myself, Abammon the Great, and Dr. Anna Stone. This week, we dive into the divine feminine. We're speaking of the divine feminine that births gods, splits atoms, and veils the face of the one. She is the Black Madonna, the loving Isis, the falling Sophia, and the soul of man. If you think you know her, think again. Breathe in, young magus, and let the work begin. One. All right, welcome back to Discourse, Season 2, Episode 1. I am your host, Abammon the Great, always joined by Dr. Anna Stone.
Hi.
Hi. And so we're back. We're on Season 2, and we're starting this off with an episode on the divine feminine.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that we have recorded before, but we didn't upload because we went on a little bit of
I went on a tirade.
A tirade. But on this episode, we're going to be discussing like the divine feminine as the transcendent principle. One of the things, like when you look online for the divine feminine, I am severely disappointed with the material that you uncover.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is hence my tirade about
So I think like most of it has to do with I guess goddesses of womanhood, right. And not really the
not a Wicca.
Yeah, like not really. So the divine feminine as a term has been kind of misappropriated as a principle to describe goddesses of womanhood instead of like the transcendent principle that it is from, alchemy and esoterics. But so we're going to be going over the cult of Mary, the story of Isis and Osiris, the Dyad in in Pythagoreanism, and Apophatic theology, how that relates to Apophatic theology. Sophia, the wisdom principle, and wisdom is something you always see tied into the divine feminine, like wherever it is. And then we're going to be going into Luna, the planet, as an alchemical symbol for the divine feminine. So,
we're going to go into the actual meaning of it rather than just the more, like you said, like goddess worship.
So there's like so the divine feminine, I guess, like if we're gonna start, the divine feminine is a more transcendent thing. It's beyond gender, it's beyond biology, and I'm personally of the belief that all initiation needs to start with the divine feminine. Like I think that before, like your very first initiation is an initiation into the divine feminine. And that's the one that gives you your occult abilities and magic and that kind of thing.
So, I mean, are you saying that for men or for everybody?
I think for everybody, right?
Right, because a lot of women, myself included, have traditionally more of a male kind of mindset, masculine mindset. And when it comes, it's harder to be like receptive. It's harder to be more like, to embrace our intuition sometimes, because it's kind of, I don't know, we're told to suppress that a lot. But anytime we're accessing collective unconscious, anytime we're accessing and using our intuition, those are aspects of divine feminine that transcend gender, right? Because it's not a female thing. Even though it's feminine, it's not tied to the genders as how it's put out in modern times, right?
It's sort of like behind the idea that God is a man. Well, no, he's not. And that there's a gendered pronoun attached to him in, religious literature. Right. But that's not really saying that he's a man as a like human male. It's more,
it's
has
that
to do with
duality of both, both attributes, right? The attributes of both that go into one. So it's being balanced, right? That God would be balanced of both aspects, right? Yeah. But it's not the same thing as just, if feminine deity worship.
Yeah. So if God is, I mean, the classic definition for the Abrahamic God, at least in like, that you hear in Sunday school, is he's omniscient, omnibenevolent, omnipresent, right? Mm-hmm. And he can't be those things if he's exclusively a man, right? Yeah.
Nor, also It kind of doesn't vibe with how we were designed either,
Yeah.
with women bringing life into, right? So it just doesn't, yeah.
Well, yeah, so this is the interesting thing. So this actually pulls us into the cult of Mary.
Okay.
And so I like to start with the cult of Mary just because, the cult of Mary is basically how the Catholic Church,
the cult that doesn't exist,
reveres
Wink,
Mary.
wink.
And there's a very, very interesting reason, at least amongst occultists and alchemists, there's a very interesting reason to why the cult of Mary is in the Catholic Church. We'll get into that in a little bit, but the cult of Mary, I guess everybody's familiar with the story of Mary, that she birthed baby Jesus. She was a virgin.
Begotten. Yes,
Yeah.
Begotten child, not a...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
not the traditional way.
Yeah. So there's a very interesting like virginal quality that's like packed into her story. And this is kind of hinting at, what the divine feminine is on an esoteric level. I mean, this definitely, how I understand the cult of Mary is not going to be how most Christians understand Mary, right? But there's a very interesting principle in there that the necessity of God to father himself through the virgin, right?
Right, because he can't, right.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't. Right. Okay, yes. I didn't think of that. That's actually quite
Yes.
telling. Right. So he had to pick a vessel.
Yes.
Select a vessel. And it also symbolizes, right, like purity and inaccessibility too, right? Like that whole thing is like I think the people in the church that they think of Mary as this completely, pure, benevolent, like something you can never ascribe to in your human form because you can't, like you have sex to have children. She's the
mother of God. That's how they refer to her.
Yeah. So you can never be like that, but we could still really hope, if it seems like a lot of people like they don't recognize this as like, do they worship her? Like, because I'm not Catholic, obviously,
No.
but so how does that go?
They will say that they don't worship her, right?
But they pray to her.
Yes, they pray to her in the same way that, maybe you have a deceased relative that you like pray to, like, hey dad, like I miss you, like that kind of stuff. I hope you're doing well, like that kind of thing. Yeah. So
that's necromancy now.
yes, exactly. The Catholic Church is riddled with these contradictions, these magical practices. There's a reason for it though, and we'll get to it in the transition.
Yes, elucidate, please.
But yeah, so they have a belief though, and what they believe about Mary and the saints and why they're able to pray to them is that they are so much closer to God than you, and so if you ask them to pray to you, then that's like
pray for me to God?
Yeah, pray for me to God.
So another system of intermediaries.
Yes, yeah. And so you can appeal to Mary. So the
interesting,
that the Hail Mary, it's like they're basically asking for intercession, like, hey, Mother of God, can you pray for me, a sinner, right? Okay. I'm a sinner, please pray for me, Mary, because you're the Holy Mother.
Okay. So is this why? So why are we sinners straight from birth? Is that because we
original
are
sin.
Original?
Yeah.
That Mary didn't partake in. Well, how come she is not in part of that?
Well, because she was the Mother of God. She was pure.
But that's after the situation, though.
Yeah, I know. But she mothered God, so that kind of like.
But she was born of original sin then.
Yeah.
And then it got absolved.
Kind of like erases that.
Interesting.
But we already talked about original sin in the Demiurge
I'm just
episode.
curious.
Yeah. So what original sin is when you introduce evil into the world and you do it through your conscious awareness. Yeah. By participating in duality, you introduce evil into the world instead of existing in a state of being. That the church doesn't teach that. That's an Abammon original.
No, but
take
I mean
there.
that's what it. I mean, original sin is the idea of knowing, right?
Exactly. Yeah. The knowledge of good and evil.
So they wanted to be just dummies walking around, I guess. Okay, cool, got it.
Yeah. How much more peaceful would it be to be like the animals?
Ignorance is bliss, right?
Yeah.
But where does that get you in life? I don't know. We'll never know.
We're living in Eden.
So what does the church think about, like with Mary? There's a lot of cases of people that have witnessed visitations, apparitions of, right? Now, call me crazy, but anytime people talk about ghosts
Yeah.
or visions, they're like, no, you didn't see that. You're crazy.
Yeah.
But the church is really quick to like kind of hear about these ones, right? And to validate them far more often than they do anything else.
Yeah.
Right?
So they send investigators, and it's because it's such an important, it happens a lot. You know?
Well, I know the ones in the past, right?
Yeah.
Like with the children that saw her. I can't remember where that was, but
that was Fatima. I think.
yeah. Okay. Right. But what about recently? Has there been any that have been validated in the recent, like, last 100 years?
I don't really keep up with the goings on of the Catholic Church, but as far as I'm aware, I think Fatima was the
last one,
most recent one. Yeah.
Was that in the 40s? When was that? I think it was the 40s.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do they validate that?
Well, they send investigators and you know, they interview. I mean, the same way they, you know, interview people for exorcisms and that kind of stuff. They have a methodology that they determine if it's an actual legitimate. But I think that right there, the appearance of Mary as an apparition is why I believe Mary is packed into the divine feminine and is a symbol of the divine feminine, is because you're going to notice the divine feminine kind of makes itself known through apparitions, visions, liminal states, that kind of thing. Okay. And so I think that lends to the legitimacy of Mary as, you know, a symbol of the divine feminine. However, one of the things that Carl Jung did not like about Mary as a symbol of the divine feminine was that she was too pure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think
it's unattainable. Yeah. Like, it's not something that we can ascribe to.
The divine feminine in other religions and cultures is very much, there's a very dark, chaotic aspect to it.
And let's talk about that. So this virgin archetype, Mary aside, exists on almost every single other culture. Yeah. Right? So every other major religious sect, every culture has some virgin origin story. Mm-hmm. Why is that?
Well, I mean, you have to think about like what semen represents, right? Okay. So in ancient Egypt, like in Egyptian creation myth, it was Egypt was splooged into existence, and I
haven't heard that term for some time.
And so
you took me back to middle school, man.
Yeah, exactly. It was splooged into existence, and so you have to think about like where's that will coming from, right? Is it human will that's defiling the vessel, or is it God's will that's coming into the vessel and giving birth, right? So I think that the virgin...
So God's seed is not
it's not human will, it's God's will, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so I think the entire arcanum or mystery of like the virgin mystery and the purity of the virgin has to do, it's like what is being birthed? Yeah. And what was the seed of that, right?
Okay.
So
that's like the creation of all, like, so.
Yeah.
Okay, I get that, I guess. Silly, but so tell me more about the church situation with Mary. Like, people pray to her, and then they get, when they go to confession, right? Aren't they, like, sometimes told to pray to her?
Do rosaries, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And is rosary for Mary?
Yeah, rosaries for Mary. It's where you do the Hail Mary. They're prayer beads. Right. And you do, in between each segment of it, it's called a decad. You do 10 Hail Marys, then you do you contemplate one of the mysteries, you do another 10 Hail Marys, contemplate one of the mysteries, and you do an Our Fathers as well. So,
I mean, now so just let me backtrack a little bit, like back to the apparitions and the visitations or whatever of Mary. Do these precede any events?
Yeah,
in the world?
Yeah.
Like the Mothman kind of vibe? Like, is it like that? Like where it happens and then there's some event happens in the world?
I'm pretty sure Fatima happened before World War II or World War I. Yeah, because one of the world wars was tied into that.
Oh, so this would be early
Fatima.
Then. It would be early.
And then like with Guadalupe, Guadalupe was tied into Spanish colonization, you know. So basically, like, Guadalupe, as the story goes, was an apparition that basically showed the Mayans that the Aztecs that they probably
conquered.
Well, yeah, that they shouldn't be sacrificing humans or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was seen amongst the people themselves?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that apparition was, so from one perspective, you could say the apparition was used as a tool by the conquistadors to convert the native population. From the other end of the spectrum, if the apparition was legitimate, then that could have been a very powerful force to convert the natives. But that's why that apparition is such a huge symbol of Mexican culture, because it basically marked like how Christianity and Catholicism took root in Mexico. Yeah.
What about oh man, I just had a question and I forgot it. There's my brain. So that's interesting that things do happen. I wonder if it's like seeing the writing on the wall, like Constantine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he had a vision before his battle, and that's why he decided that everyone was going to be Christian from now on, right? You know? So did that include Mary?
I don't know. I'm not familiar with Constantine's vision.
Oh, yeah. I'm not either. I just know that he's responsible for all this.
Yeah. So there's, I think some really important things that we're going to see in our exploration of the divine feminine is that, there is a virginal quality to the divine feminine. So this would rule out some goddesses, right?
Sure.
And then that it comes like there are apparitions associated with it, right? So the thing is, the apparitions of Mary, like those are very frequent. People don't necessarily have apparitions of Christ or God.
And if they do, we think they're crazy.
Yeah. But the thing about the apparitions of Mary, and this is really key for the divine feminine, is the divine feminine seems to have an ability to interface with the world, and it does it through something like visions, dreams, and it presents as a goddess, right?
Okay.
And so that's where a lot of the confusion happens, because a lot of times people just take that as like, well, any goddess is the divine feminine, right?
Well, how do they know it's Mary? Like, does she show up like in the traditional garb that she's been portrayed in?
So, yeah, I mean, like there's a knowing, like when you come into contact with a god form, like you have a knowing of what you're coming into contact with. At the same time, obviously, people who experience this apparition are usually Catholic. So what else are they supposed to assume it is, right?
That's what I mean. So how do they know?
There's a certain feeling that comes with Mary, and this is like an important piece of the puzzle too. Mary, I think Mary is the best god form of the divine feminine to get this through. Mary is associated with catharsis, like a purification through sorrow or grief, right?
Yeah.
And that's why she's depicted so much as crying. Yeah.
Yeah, that is the thing.
It's a very powerful feeling. And so when I'm seeking to interface with the divine feminine in that way, I always go through Mary, because that's usually, I feel like that's one of the best forms,
Right.
She's very cleansing, purifying, clean kind of energy. But that was Carl Jung's complaint about her too.
Right. I mean, I could see that because, because Freud, right? He's the one that when he was doing all the studies on women and stuff, he had came to this conclusion that his colleagues didn't like. And so he changed it to being hysterical, right? Women are hysterical, crying all the time, having fits of being sad and whatever. And Carl Jung didn't like that. He was like, no, that's not that simple. It's not that ridiculous. So I can see how he didn't like it. But I do have to say, this seems to me like, okay, so there's visions, apparitions, praying to, okay, that sounds like witchcraft. Yeah.
So that's an accusation the Catholic Church gets a lot, especially for the cult of Mary. But this helps us transition into Isis and Osiris.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is another interesting, because if it's the divine feminine, there's this virginal quality, right? Well, how does the next story fit in? So
there actually is the virginal quality is technically in it.
Right. How?
Technically. Okay.
Because I'm pretty sure she was not. Yeah. Okay.
So the story of Isis and Osiris is basically Osiris is a great the original king of Egypt, and he brings agriculture and roads and civilization and that kind of stuff. He has this brother Seth, who is the god of chaos and the outside lands and that kind of stuff, and he's jealous of Osiris, so he kills Osiris.
Yeah. gets him in that box.
Yeah, gets him in the box. He dismembers him, spreads its body all over the far corners of Egypt, and Isis goes on this very romantic, grueling. This is like, I think this is one of the most romantic stories of
gross,
all human civilization, because just the language that they use, and I'm talking about the Plutarch version of it, Plutarch's on Isis and Osiris. It is like just this like grieving devotion that's coming from Isis as she wanders Egypt, trying to collect all his body parts, and there's like a wrathful anger in her too towards Seth, and it's just a really beautiful story. And
she's also like a healer too.
Yeah, so she's got magic. She's like an initiate,
and she's hiding her identity also, right? Like she went
behind her veil, like that kind of thing, as she's collecting all the body parts of Osiris. Meanwhile, like Osiris is in the underworld or whatever, and so Isis uses her magic when she collects all his body parts. There's only one body part that she can't get, and it's his penis.
Yeah.
Because it was ate by, I think, a crocodile or the crocodile god. I'm pretty sure. It gets. Oh no, it's ate by a fish.
Oh, it's a fish.
Yeah, it's a certain type of fish, and so Egyptians won't eat that fish.
Yeah. I thought it was something in the water.
Yeah. So it's ate by a certain type of fish, and so she crafts a phallus with her magic and attaches it to Osiris, resurrects him, and Osiris is resurrected into a god, right? The god of the underworld. But she, inseminates her with the like not real penis. Right. So it inseminates herself with the not real penis, the penis that she crafted, because that was the only missing piece of Osiris, and then gives birth to Horus, the divine child, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there we have the divine family, divine child,
right.
Like Osiris is God.
Again, like that, the three, right? Yeah.
It's that story is very reminiscent of Christianity.
It is.
Yeah. The Christian divine family. And if you think about it, I mean, like, the Christian God the Father, he was never like, he didn't start off as a man like Osiris did.
Right.
So like within Hellenism, classical religion, like Hellenic religion, that kind of stuff, Egyptian religion, what are you doing there? You're trying to repeat the story of Osiris, right? You're trying to man being resurrected to a god. But it talks a little bit about what's going on there, is that if you are Osiris, you cannot be inseminating the divine feminine with your earthly self.
Right. It has to be.
And at the same time, like the divine feminine, Isis as a symbol of the divine feminine, is inseminating herself, like by reflecting herself through Osiris. Like she crafted his phallus, right? She crafted his will.
Of his magic.
Yeah.
It's something supernatural that got her knocked up.
Yeah. And it gave birth to Horus,
right?
Who was the
Falcon,
God king of Egypt. Yeah.
That's interesting. But like what about the aspect of dismemberment in this story?
Yeah, so dismemberment, that's something we talk a lot about in initiation. And the cult of Isis was actually like the largest, at least in the Hellenized world, it was the largest mystery cult. At least in the past, Isis was a favorite for initiation amongst occultists. Like we're talking about the 19th century or early 20th century. Yeah. But there are tons of records of her initiates from back in the classical world. There are books written about the ordeals that people went through. Like I think it's called The Golden Ass is an old fiction book from the classical period. And it was a fiction book, but in it the author was writing about like his experience with initiating into Isis. But Isis was a popular choice of initiation, especially amongst women and children, right? And so one of the things that we can understand about, like kind of conclude from that, if like she had a very popular mystery cult to initiate into, and it was like so popular that women and children were initiating into it as well in this period, we can kind of draw the conclusion that this is a relatively it's a relatively, I guess, safe initiation, for lack of a better word.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But the experience of an initiation into Isis is a lot more. I mean, it's an initiation, and it's Osiris is tied into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you are getting plunged into the underworld in her initiation, but being resurrected through it,
right?
You know,
I mean that, and it's odd because that's the first. And when I was very little, 12, that's the first deity that I ever was associated with at all. Like, and I don't know why. That's what I picked. Like, that's just what showed up, I guess, you know? And, but I had no idea or understanding of the fact that other people, you know, that they had a history to it because I was a kid, you know? Yeah, that was my first ever.
Well, I think, I honestly think that Isis is, because what I like so much about Isis as a symbol of the divine feminine is she has that wrathful side. She has that, like,
vengeance.
Yeah, and she is a magical deity. Like, she is like a proper god form, you know?
Yeah. And she's like also like a witch, you know? Like she's got magic and she will lay in wait to get you back, you know what I mean? And like set you on fire, like and scorch earth kind of vibe, right? And to get what she wants.
So she was the sister and the wife of Osiris. I haven't necessarily unlocked the sister arcanum, but still
sister wife,
still her story is like so powerful. It's like one of my favorite mythological stories.
It's great. It's a great one, and a lot of people know it and don't understand the like importance of it. You know?
You see a lot of the same arcanum presented in Isis's story that you see within the Christian story. And this has led to like certain people. This actually moves into like doubles back onto the cult of Mary. So alchemists, especially, there's a phenomenon in Christian cathedrals that medieval Christian cathedrals, Gothic cathedrals, that is a phenomenon of black. Something called the Black Madonna, right?
Right.
And it's Mary, but she's like completely black, and this wasn't like they weren't that progressive, and this wasn't a representation thing to a bunch of like medieval architects and sculptors and that kind of stuff. That wasn't what was going through their head.
Right.
So there's like something. There's a mystery to the Black Madonna. It's like, well, is the Black Madonna like maybe there's something in the paint that turned it black? Or were they intentionally black? And so alchemists and esotericists actually believe that the Black Madonna were old Isis temples. And that the cathedrals were built on Isis temples. And that the Black Madonna with child is actually Isis with Horus.
Right.
And that's the alchemical symbolism of it. But then you have to think about like what the black on Isis is representing, and it's kind of representing the putrefaction, the first stage alchemy. It's not just her veil, but it's also her association with Osiris, with death, with putrefaction, with destruction, right?
With that kind of shadow aspect.
Yeah.
Because if it's true that everything it has is duality, right? Like everything has both sides, then Miss Purity over here would also have to have the opposite, right? So, I mean, maybe that's what it was, is depicting the opposite of the purity and the benevolence. Right? Yeah. So that's, I mean, I think by now they would have figured out if it was a issue with the paint.
Yeah.
You know.
So this is one of the things, like the theories about this, that why Mary, like the cult of Mary, made it into the Catholic Church, was basically Isis's cult was so large and so important to the population. I mean, we're talking about, there's a lot of, like, the cult of Mithras was entirely male. They didn't let women and children in it, right?
Right.
So it's a little easier to crush that cult, for Christianity to crush that cult. But when you're talking about, everybody's participating in the cult of Isis, and then Christianity comes and, takes their goddess away from them, and it's like, that's really difficult for the population. And so, what do? It's like, well, actually, it's Mary. And
integrate it.
And the mysteries between the two stories, they're pretty identical, you know.
Well, so is the Sumerian story of Inanna, right?
Uh-huh.
So that's the same thing. We're descent into the underworld,
Yes.
you know, rebirth, that whole thing. It's
Uh-huh.
another kind of same vibe, same story, pretty much, but you know, just different culture, different characters, right?
Yes.
And you know, also then with in Egypt, like Hathor, Sekhmet, right? Like the whole chaos versus nurturing, or you know, destruction versus nurture, chaos versus cosmos.
The phenomenon of Isis in this role. So the ancient Egyptian religion, she didn't really have this strong divine feminine role. She was like not as important of a goddess as the Hellenized world made it out to be. Right. And Sekhmet and Hathor kind of had the mysteries that we now associate with Isis.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say, like, when we went up to Hearst Castle and we saw that we were right next to this 2,500-year-old statue of Sekhmet, no barrier between us. And I got to tell you, like, I felt there was a feeling around it, like, definitely. It almost brought me to tears. And I'm not one to be like that. Like, but it did. Like, there was something about it. Like, I can't explain it, but it was something about it that kind of gave that vibe of like catharsis that you're talking about. Yeah. And I'm just realizing this right now as we're talking about this, because it was me and Stephanie, my friend Stephanie, and we both were just standing there on opposite sides. And I look over her and she's got tears running down her face, and I did too. And I was like, why are we crying? Like, what's going on? It wasn't even voluntary. Like, it was an involuntary thing. And I can't really explain it. Like, but I just know that there was something about that. I don't know. I have no idea what, but there was a cathartic but like comforting vibe to it that was palpable, like tangible. Like, it was really quite amazing, actually. So Hearst Castle is a place to go. Serious. Yeah, that place has all kinds of. It has the original Madonna and Child from Da Vinci.
Oh, interesting.
The original one.
Yeah.
Or Michelangelo, whoever painted it, whatever, I don't know. Yeah, one of those two. And that also had some weird, like, kind of feeling to it, and it's just insane. So highly suggest people go there. They want to look at that kind of original stuff, even though it was pilfered from, illegally.
As it usually is.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so. And then what about the whole aspect of like the bride with Mary? What is that about?
I'm sorry?
The bride, like how she's like the bride of God, like God's bride. Like, where is that coming from?
Mm-mm.
You haven't heard this? That's a thing. Like, Mary's
the church is supposed to be the bride.
Oh, okay. So there's a lot of people. Oh my gosh. There's a lot of people that always associate with Mary with being a bride of God. Like, I'm so confused by this. So the nuns, you know how nuns are, what are nuns? Like nuns are also brides of God, right? That's where that comes from.
It's supposed to be that's what the nuns are doing. It's supposed to be the church. This is actually part of the mystery of alchemy, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So the church is supposed to be the bride, and then like nuns are brides of Jesus, right?
Okay. Yeah, that's weird. That's interesting to me. Okay, yeah. So there's a lot of I think in locally, right, in Los Angeles, there's a lot of that. If you go to like the little botanicas and stuff, that's like a huge theme of the bride. They have like effigies of her wearing wedding gowns. And I never understood that. I was hoping you could. Maybe it's something cultural.
I don't think that's necessarily the Orthodox perspective.
Maybe not, but I don't know. Like, I've always wondered about that because it's interesting, and even my coworker at work talks about it. But yeah, so I'll have to look into that and see where that's coming from. But so we've got the Virgin Mary, and we've got Isis and Osiris.
Yes.
And now, what else do we have for the divine feminine? We have.
What's our next topic on the piece of paper?
I'm not on that page anymore.
Okay. Oh, the Dyad and Apophatic Theology, right? So we're about to get really nerdy and
cool.
philosophical here,
about
right?
It. Right.
So the Dyad is the two in Pythagoreanism, and so basically between the what the divine feminine is kind of representing through Mary and Isis is this need for divinity to father itself through a womb, through this virginal quality. And what that's actually talking about is this, what the Pythagorean dyad is representing, and it's duality, but it's not the yin or the yang on the Tao. It's the whole Tao. Right.
Okay.
So it's the totality of duality that the divine feminine is representing through the virginity, arcanum, and through the necessity for God to birth himself. So basically this goes into apophatic theology, which is basically this like dialectic dialogue that philosophers, especially Platonic philosophers, would engage in order to approach a unity within ontology, which in ontology is the nature of being, right? Because basically the most transcendent unifying principle that you can get to is just being, right? Being itself. Like everything participates in being. And so that gives it a type of oneness, right? So but the problem is you can't approach being because it's too transcendent, right? Because by saying something like being, you're implying that there's something that is
not being.
But
I remember this from
not being
is
also
still
being. A state of being.
I remember this from my consciousness studies.
So Pseudo Dionysius, and he's a Christian Platonist theologian or whatever. He basically concludes that like the idea of non-being is just so irrational that you can't approach it at all. And so really the closest you can get to being is through this dichotomy, this duality, being and non-being.
To be or not to be.
Yes, exactly. Because they're both still being. But in order to comprehend the idea of being, you need non-being to exist. And so this is what the Pythagorean dyad, which is the number 2, represents. And this is what duality represents. That dichotomy is what gives experience being. And so in order for God to be experienced, in order for the creation to be experienced, there has to be a dual principle. And the dual principle is the divine feminine. That's what the virginity and the God fathering himself through the virgin, that's what those mysteries are entailing. So one of the common things that people like to think of the divine feminine is that, and this is like super popular, is, well, you got the divine masculine and you got the divine feminine, and they're like two things,
but they're not.
They work together, but exactly
because you can't have, because it has to have both in order to exist at all.
Divine masculine would have no being if the divine feminine was not there to provide,
and vice versa,
contrast. Yes, exactly.
So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so the divine feminine receives the all thing. It's too transcendent, the all thing. We call it God, right? The divine feminine receives God and provides it definition, gives birth to existence and experience, gives birth to the universe, gives birth to the creation, just by nature of providing that contrast between one and two.
It makes sense. This is where language comes into play, like, as a problem, because I don't think we have, again, the language necessary to describe these things in a way that makes any sense. Really. I mean, it does make sense, but it's not quite capturing exactly what we're saying.
Yes, exactly.
Because it's not sayable.
So this is why because of what the divine feminine is representing, this is why I think the divine feminine appears to people in the creation. Why the divine feminine is how we access divinity and deity, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I believe that everybody needs to, that's the first thing you should initiate into. Initiate into the divine feminine, initiate into the goddess, because the goddess expresses herself in liminal states, right?
Being able to kind of transcend being
Yes.
in the physical world.
It's this threshold. It's like this, it's like putting on 3D glasses. The red and the blue at the same time provides the dimension.
Oh yeah. Like how our eyeballs work independently of each other, but then our brain interprets it as one picture.
Yeah.
It's like that, right? So it's two components that make a whole.
Yes.
Right.
So in order to have experience with divinity, with deity, with the other side, with the unseen, you have to come through the divine feminine. You have to. And that's that threshold quality, that liminal quality that we find in Hecate as an expression.
Right.
That's everybody's favorite expression of the divine feminine to initiate into right now.
Right now,
really yes.
Popular.
Like everybody is into Hecate. And I mean, that's that kind of, her association with the threshold, with the crossroads, and that's what it's, that's what it's talking about right there.
Liminal spaces.
Yeah.
Yes. And all of that. Right. So that is, man, these people were they had a lot of time to be thinking these things, like how fun.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just like, it's crazy, but you see it all across the world, all across the world. This pops up and pops up. They just have different names for it, different symbols for it.
They do. That's the thing is it's across all cultures. Again, it's that repeating story, that repeating theme.
Yes.
It's just called something different, depending on where you're geographically located, right?
Yeah.
And that's interesting. And I think so. If people that are like in touch with this are going to be, are they people that are open to their intuition and listen to it, are capable of acknowledging that there's something more beyond what we see or are being currently here in this plane, right? Like that's what it would be, right? So
well, it's not. So that's the thing. It's not either or. It's both at once.
Right. Yeah, we're here, but also this other thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So a lot of people can't get their heads around that.
Yeah.
A lot.
Well, that's the neophyte is working to get to that place,
right?
To where they can exist in the material world and have sight or have or be able to
that
hear and that kind of stuff. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the veil lifted right there. There's the divine feminine again, another mystery, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, so like people that work on hunches or follow their gut feelings, etc. Those people are more receptive. Therefore, they're more of embodying their divine feminine aspects than those that are just black and white thinkers that are like, no, all I know is what I can see right now, right in front of me.
So if you're constantly in that frontal lobe
Left
thinking,
brain,
that if you're constantly in logic and reason, you're not accessing that threshold, that liminal state. But if you're completely within the intuitive subconscious faculty,
you're nothing.
You're literally in nothing.
Like you're a space case, right? Yeah.
So there's a poem, Thunder.
Oh my gosh.
Perfect Mind.
Yeah. That one's great.
Yeah, that one's about Sophia, the Gnostic, or at least it's considered a Gnostic text, so we can assume that it's talking about Sophia. But that poem is a poem of paradox, right? It's like the goddess in there is saying, I am the bride and the bridegroom. I give life and I take it, like that kind of stuff. And that's what that poem, it's like trying to rapid fire at you this paradox of like what the divine feminine is, because it's both at once, and it provides the definition, right? Yeah. It's not just because the thing, if you dive headfirst into like void, nothing, chaos, like that kind of stuff, without that logical, rational
so we need both.
Kind of place, that's not the divine feminine either.
Right. So you need both, but it is ontologically difficult, right? It causes some problems when these things occur.
Yeah.
Because you can be all in reality rational, right, in this current being, and then have glimpses of the other, and it's like, holy shit, like, what am I losing my mind? It can drive you into some state of maybe being concerned about your own mental health, right? Like it definitely can. I know, like, I struggled with that for a really long time because logically, right, the stuff that we're taught here, that shouldn't be a thing, yet my reality tells me something different, and that's a hard thing to reconcile for a lot of people. myself included, for the longest time. Because that causes, I feel like it causes some fragmentation, right?
Yeah.
So, and fragmentation is a part of this whole thing too, right? Like, so with Sophia specifically, right? Like, the fragmentation is an individuation, like you get there through having fragments, but how do you reconcile that? How do you get to the point where it's individuation because of fragmentation? Like, how does that work? Like, you get broken up into different parts, and then you recognize that you're all these different parts, but
is that
still
dismemberment?
one. Right.
Is that dismemberment?
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just a different word for it,
Yeah.
right? So through the breaking of the psyche, like, or, you know, and like understanding that there's all these different aspects to oneself, right? That we like to hide away because they're not maybe pleasant or something.
Or we just don't want to engage in because we don't think it's important.
Right. Yeah.
My problem.
Yeah. Touche. You know, that once we are able to see that like all of these things can exist at once within the same vessel, right? Then that is also an embodiment of divine feminine. Yes, no?
What?
Like if you're able to see that you're all of these different components that are contradictory and separate-ish, you know, like separate that don't coincide with each other well, like in the real world, right? You know, that it's like a contradiction, you know, like you're a creator and a destroyer, you're a lover and a hater, you know, like all these things, but they all reside within one vessel, yourself.
Yes.
Right? Then that's once you recognize that, then that's you beginning the process of integration. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so to recognize the parts that we don't like to admit, right? That are less desirable traits.
Yeah, we have to hit those. So I think that's part of your first work with the divine feminine is definitely doing the like kind of mundane Jungian shadow work where the personal inventory, you know, going like, what are all my weaknesses? What's all my ugly? And then healing that shit, you know? Yeah. And that's a part, I think, like, it's like one of the first steps anybody should take when they get into magic.
Well, I would hope.
It's like invoke the divine feminine, give yourself to it, and do all that like Jungian, like get out all your bullshit, you know, get out all your bad behaviors, your shortcomings, you integrate your shadow, that kind of stuff. That should be a part of your work when you first are initiating, you know, because the divine feminine is the one that cleans it, right? Right. Divine feminine has a few, like it burns it out of you, like that's that catharsis from Mary, right? Yeah, but you can't fix what you don't acknowledge, right? So yes, exactly. That's part of it, definitely. That's so interesting. I didn't realize that they were so connected with the principles of psychology, kind of. Yes. Oh, the divine feminine?
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. I think we'll get into it. I think we're going to take a break right now.
Okay.
But when we come back, we're going to get into Sophia and then Luna and alchemy or whatever. Right. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll be right back, guys. Take a quick break. All right. 3, 2, 1. Okay, welcome back from our break, and we're gonna jump right back into it with we're moving on to Sophia, right? So I guess I'll take it away. Sophia as a word, it's wisdom, right? So Sophia is the Gnostic divine feminine principle, and Sophia is a within the Gnostic creation myth is a sorry, let's start this over again.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. All right, welcome back from our break, and we're going to jump right back into it. We're jumping back in with Sophia. And so Sophia as a word is wisdom, but Sophia is this kind of like goddess archetype within the Gnostic creation myth that gives birth to the demiurge, right? And she does it without the permission of the creator god, but she like really wants to be her own creator, and so she gives birth to the demiurge who creates
asexually.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
I did not know that.
But this is she's representative of the wisdom principle, and you're going to see wisdom tied into the divine feminine
Right.
a lot. And I think it's like important. I mean, once again, you're seeing this Sophia giving birth basically to the creation. Within the Gnostic mythos, it's the entity that's responsible for the creation, the demiurge, the craftsman, right?
Right.
But the wisdom principle is something that is all over the divine feminine, and I think it speaks a lot into like what wisdom is,
right,
and which is this kind of experienced thing.
Right.
It's something that gives birth. It's something that's received.
Right.
Right.
I just got I just got something about that.
What?
Okay. So the cyclical wisdom, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How it's passed on through the divine feminine aspect. Okay. And all of a sudden I just saw mitochondrial DNA. It's like how it's carried by the X chromosome, right? In the women.
Mm-hmm.
And every single one of us carries all of that ancestral DNA from every other woman in our family line. All of us.
Yeah.
And what is DNA? Information.
Yeah.
Right? So like that just hit me like a ton of bricks. Like it literally is carried over. It's like it's received, right?
Mm-hmm.
Via the feminine.
Yeah.
And only the feminine.
See, yeah, this stuff, this principle is reflected all over like the material world or whatever.
Literally, that's it. Like mitochondrial DNA, it carries all of the lineage of every single female in our family, in our line.
That's crazy. I've never. That's amazing. I've never I never ran into that. But yeah,
you know what I mean?
It makes total sense.
Because I was thinking, okay, is it like is it like passing on via stories, you know?
Uh-huh.
And I got yes. I was thinking that in my head, and I got yes, but not the way you think. And then it just showed me this double helix, and I'm like, oh my gosh, mitochondrial DNA. Like that's what it is. Like so, yeah. It actually quite literally is wisdom passed on. Yeah.
So it's not, but it's not just like raw information, right? Like,
no, because the DNA carries also traits
like,
and
memories,
yes,
experiences,
exactly.
like that kind of thing.
Trauma.
Yeah.
All of that. Like, wow.
Yeah, because I mean that's what wisdom entails. Wisdom entails more than knowledge, right? Like
experience.
Knowledge, yeah. Experience. It's received. It's intuitive.
And it's passive. It's passive.
Yeah.
It's like you just get it. Like it's, holy shit. Like I just like, wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful. That's good.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Wow. That just like blew me away. Like, because I saw it, like, which I could put in your head. When I saw, that was, and it's from it's like, it's basically from everyone because we all start at 0.0, right?
Yeah, on a long enough timeline.
Yeah. So it's just that's how it's disseminated throughout.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, sorry, I had a moment.
No, that was amazing. That was great. Yeah.
Holy shit. Okay, yeah. So, because it carries the wisdom is cultural and it's mystical, it's experience, it's trauma, it's loss, it's all those things, right?
Yeah.
With every good, there's bad. With every, experience, there's inexperience, right? All of those things are carried over.
Yes.
For each of the offspring of the women in each line.
Mm-hmm.
That's nuts. Yeah. I mean, if only science would understand, like if only science would be open to that kind of vibe, you know?
Yeah.
They're not. And like that would be also, then that would also account for like channeled wisdom.
Yes.
That women, the channeled wisdom that you get where you just get something that you just, like what I just happened right now, like where I just saw, like know without knowing. So you know without knowing, like those things are the same thing. It's like, how do you know what you don't know, but yet you know it? Like, oh my God, I sound like to be or not to be right now. But wow, like, yeah, that just, holy shit. Okay, sorry. But yeah, like, so the channeled wisdom is, I think, part of it. I think it's like literally just passed along to us. And if you listen, you listen. If you don't, you don't.
Yeah.
Right?
If you can experience, if you can hear it. And I mean, it's the wisdom being associated with the divine feminine, and the divine feminine requiring this kind of having to embrace like dual experience or dual being, right? You have to embrace dualism through non-dualism, right? That's what the divine feminine is trying to encourage you to do with, you know, being apparent in liminal spaces. And that's the only way to like really receive wisdom. It's the what?
I just got another thing.
Okay, go ahead. I mean, like, take it away.
Okay, so you know how all embryos start off female, right? And then one of the eggs of the X chromosome gets lopped off if it's going to be a boy. Regardless of that, all of the parts stay the same. They just get assigned to a different thing, right? Mm-hmm. So ovaries, right, become testes. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? We all have the same fucking parts. Mm-hmm. They're just assigned in a different role. Yeah. So that's a literal interpretation of this stuff. Like, it's the same. Like, we have both. Mm-hmm. Everybody does. It's just a different role depending on what your biology decided for you, but we still retain it. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so every aspect of a woman, feminine, the feminine is also literally possessed by every masculine. Yeah. And vice versa. Mm-hmm. It's just called something different and has a different function. But the parts that it starts with are still there. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I understand.
So, like, embodied in every single one of us is the other.
Yeah. So if we want to flip that into the divine or the deity, right? Right. And this is like one of the tragedies of modernity's kind of incessant need to, like, you know, either, well, God has a wife, or, you know, like that kind of shit, or like God is a woman. It's like the divine feminine is God.
Yeah.
And God is the divine feminine.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, it's the same thing.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
It's like just how it's expressed.
Right. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah. Literally. Like, here, because we can only, because as we are in this iteration, that's all we can, that's the way that we can possibly contain that, or like experience it on the level that our brains would allow. Yeah. You know? So
I think obviously when dealing with God forms, spirits, that kind of thing, we are obviously experiencing them in an anthropomorphic way, because that is a projection of what we can understand. Right. And I think that the divine feminine's the divine feminine being expressed as a goddess, like an anthropomorphic woman, is less about her being a goddess of womanhood and more about the attributes and qualities that she holds,
that we interpret because of how we are currently.
And so it looks like a human woman to us, right, when we experience it. Right.
Well, that's not how it is when you die, like on the other side at all. And it is hard for us to understand forms outside of our own. Yeah. Right. It is. Yeah.
We can't even think of aliens that don't look like
us. We can't. We can't, right? Because if we see something that doesn't have a brain, that doesn't have...
When we try to get out of the box, we like look at an octopus and like, well, what if it looked like that?
Yeah, I know, like that's like, ooh, right, you know? But like, because to us, anything that's intelligent has to have certain parts, right? Yeah. When that's silly and very arrogant to think. Yeah. But I mean, we do that with plants. Like, we think that plants aren't like they weren't until recently. They didn't think plants talk to each other, but they in fact do. Yeah. And because they don't have a brain or a nervous system, like we think that that's the only thing that makes something smart or conscious, right? But that's because we're so limited in our ability to know those kinds of things.
Yeah. Well, you have to, and to label something as not conscious because it doesn't have a brain, you are basically making the statement that you believe that consciousness is
in the brain.
Is in the brain.
Which it is not. It is not. No one knows. No one knows. I guess no one can agree.
Well, yeah, but people don't really think about that. I mean,
I do.
That's yeah.
It drives me crazy.
Well, it's like when people make a statement like plants aren't conscious, or plants don't have like brains, so they're not conscious. You're not really thinking that. Like, I'm making a statement that I believe consciousness is a result of.
I guess they don't think that way.
Neurology or neurochemistry or
right.
whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's always been funny to me how we pretend to know how conscious something is or isn't that we can't communicate with. It's like
you can't really measure it. Yeah,
you can't, but we do.
Because like, what happens when somebody's like in a coma, right? We can't measure their consciousness, so when they wake up, we just ask them like, "Yo, like, do you remember, like, could you hear anything?"
Yeah,
like,
we have to ask.
We have no idea.
Right? And or like when someone's under anesthesia, like, where were you?
Yeah.
Like where?
Yeah, we just ask them. We're just like,
do you remember anything? Like, you didn't feel anything, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully, and then there's that locked in.
We don't know how to measure it. Yeah.
God forbid, locked in syndrome happens. Oh my God, where you can't move but you're still conscious. Like that would suck. Yeah. But yeah, like that's the idea that we can even begin to know that is ridiculous. But I mean, oh my gosh, I don't know, that this whole idea of intuitive reception though is again in the Judaic text also, right? Isn't there like this receptive or intuitive reception?
Yeah, so I mean, this ties kind of into chokmah. And chokmah, so I'm a Kabbalah heretic because I assign chokmah as a feminine principle, and bina as a masculine principle. Classically or traditionally, everything on the pillar of mercy, which would be like, all the nice benevolent qualities, are obviously masculine, because
right.
That's
that tracks.
And all the mean stuff is obviously feminine. So yeah.
Yeah, so, we're the evil ones. Yeah.
But I think like really the depth of that, the masculine and feminine pillars on the tree of life, I think it changes dependent on how you're approaching it, right?
Okay.
So if you're going from bottom to top, the spheres change gender. Then if you're going top to bottom, kind of like the I use my left brain to move my right hand, kind of like that thing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Or you're the same with your eyes. Yeah.
So but I personally understand chokmah to be a kind of feminine principle, and it's because of like how chokmah is the Hebrew word for wisdom. And wisdom is so obviously tied into the divine feminine, and it's receptive, right? So it's something that is received, and then it gets formed with understanding, and to me, which is bina. And bina is like forming something, it's very much like a masculine kind of demiurgy that's happening with understanding, right? Okay. So understanding is where you're kind of like, okay, I have the wisdom now.
Wisdom and understanding are not the same.
How do I apply it?
Right.
Yeah. So chokmah consciousness is within really old Jewish mysticism is believed that chokmah consciousness is the state of consciousness that you're not in, that you're in bina consciousness all the time, like normally, right? Okay. That conscious awareness where you're logically reasoning and rationalizing and experiencing the material world around you, that is bina consciousness. It's a consciousness of understanding. And that in order to receive prophecy, like a biblical patriarch, you have to be able to alternate rapidly between bina consciousness and chokmah consciousness. Okay. And once again, it comes back to those like 3D glasses, like the red lens and the blue lens at the same time provide the dimension.
Okay.
And so the Kabbalists, they believed that they had to train themselves to get into chokmah consciousness and then switch between the two very rapidly in order to get visions from God, in order to get prophecy.
So is that because you need to be able to get it and then to discern what it means? Like, is that why?
It's
so you need the liminal state plus the logical state to be able to interpret?
No, the liminal state is the receptive state and the interpretive state at the same time. Okay. Right? Because if you're oscillating between them frequently, right?
Okay, so then it becomes one
really
thing.
Fast, and it becomes one thing.
Right. Okay.
And you have two two ends of the spectrum,
Okay.
experienced at the same time.
So this is like getting into the alpha state in your brain where you get both sides synchronized, and it becomes one instead of two separate things, right?
Interesting.
Starting to see patterns here.
Alpha state stuff.
No,
like I don't know.
Well, so like because with the idea that you can like leave your body, right? You know, from the gateway process, whatever the CIA thing.
Yeah.
Is that the right and left brain don't work? They work independently of each other, right? And then also connect with each other. But if you can train yourself to the point where you can get both of them to work at the same time in the same fashion, then it becomes this whole other thing that allows you to escape time, space, and all of that.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to see patterns here.
Yes. Patterns. Oh my gosh,
saying.
It's crazy. It's like
I don't know.
almost
like I
like
might
this
be
is
autistic.
a universal principle, the divine feminine.
I know
that permeates everywhere,
everything,
and it's trying to tell us something, and it's like trying to be like, I'm here, I'm trying to help
like just
you
be open.
here.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, I'm open. I'm hearing it.
It's like it's like lifting the veil. It's like, look, like things are not what they seem.
No, they're not. That's for sure.
You're stuck in I'm trying to help you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. That's a pattern though. Like, so I'm seeing, like, I wasn't aware of that until right now. That's the oscillating rapidly back and forth.
Yeah. So that is in the Judaic text. My personal gnosis is that Chokmah is a feminine principle, and Bina is a masculine principle, and that is a heresy. I don't know anybody else who says that. So,
well, I mean, it's about what works for you. With this stuff, it's like whatever resonates with you works for you. Yeah, it's not heresy. It's called your personalized experience.
Personal gnosis.
Yeah. I mean,
that tree falls apart for me like so much.
I know it does. That's part of the struggle is real.
That blasted tree.
I know. I know. So, what about now Luna?
Yeah, Luna. So we're getting into Luna, and I think Luna is the perfect embodiment. The moon, my dear, my beloved, is the perfect physical embodiment of what the divine feminine represents. Right. Okay.
Because all things have to go through the moon.
All things have to go through the moon. It is the intermediary between the sublunar and extralunar, the celestial world, right? It's the closest to us. Right. It softens.
Has a direct effect on us.
It has a direct effect on us. It softens. It controls water, the tides.
It sure does, which is the symbolic of intuition and
emotions. Yes. And it is reflective. It reflects the sun's light. If we stare directly at the sun, we can't see it because it blinds us. Right. So we need. In order to experience, and so they say, if you believe in the moon, if you believe NASA lies, the moon, there's just a rock up there, just orbiting us.
I'm just saying no one went there, as all I'm saying. Yeah. I believe the moon exists.
Okay, NASA, I'll believe there's a rock, it's like orbiting us, okay.
It's a damn spaceship.
They've got a giant projector up there.
It's like the Truman Show. Yeah. No, I believe that's real. I just don't think that we put our feet on it ever. But okay. Anyways, but so it's the embodiment of
yes. Okay. So it receives the burning, blinding light of the sun. It reflects us. So if we want to directly experience the sun's light, we can experience it through the moon's reflection, right? Okay. And then it's barren, right? Sure. It's absolutely barren. It's got this beautiful, clean, almost said the W word. That would have been bad. We would have got canceled immediately. It's white. Of course, it's pure.
Well, it is, according to NASA's model of it that they put forth as a real thing. It is white.
Yeah.
With
well, it's like gray, but it looks white to us because it's reflecting the sunlight. Yeah. Right. But so it's like we see this like pure like virginal quality to it, but it only comes out at night.
But
right?
It's barren.
And so it's barren. So that's the virginal quality right there. Yeah, exactly. It's like a barren virginal quality.
And then it has the phases of the which is like the death, rebirth every 28 days.
It comes out at night. I mean, it's in the underworld. Yeah. It's in. But it is that threshold. It's the gate. It's the gate to everything else. The rest of the cosmos, that kind of thing. Right. And so I think it is the perfect embodiment of what, the divine feminine represents, right? It's got all those principles packed into it. And so when we find ourselves approaching the divine feminine, we're trying to initiate into the divine feminine, we're trying to train ourselves to become like the moon. We try to train ourselves to be empty, to be still, to be a vessel that things can arise in.
Right. We have to be empty to actually receive.
Yes.
If we're not empty, then we have no space, right?
And so the negative qualities of the moon have to do with like mania, hysteria, illusion, that kind of
werewolves.
thing. Yeah, werewolves.
Bites.
Yeah.
That's a real thing. That's
werewolves
no. But working in a hospital for 20 years.
Yeah.
I can tell you that on full moon nights, and it's not a joke, they double staff and they see a higher prevalence in human bites.
Oh.
On each other. Like people come in with bites from each other. Like it's a weird thing.
But it's like furries,
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. This is before that
every
shit.
Full moon. Yeah.
This is before. God, that was before this. I think.
It's like
that's a newer phenomenon. I think. Like really, compared.
One of those like greasy 20-year-old kids comes in with a foxtail like covered in bites. So
you know what else?
He was a werewolf.
I fell on it.
Yeah, I fell on a werewolf.
The same people.
Send him to the X-ray tech or whatever.
Yeah. It's the same people that are gonna end up.
I fell
every time. Like,
how'd you get this in there?
I fell on it. Yeah. That's a real thing too, unfortunately. And I'm gonna tell you right now, if you go to the ER with that kind of problem, and there is somebody says on the loudspeaker at some point, some code, and that is a secret code that lets everyone know that you're in there with that situation. That's serious. Like we got a 14 in the ER bay, and that is, everybody knows that means somebody had an accident.
Had an accident.
And everyone then is making fun of you. I'm not kidding. Okay. I'm dead serious. Anyways, but bite marks and any kind of, it does, because it pulls allegedly on, science dismisses this outright. Yet police force and hospital personnel will be double staffed, if not, extra staff on these nights where there's full moon. Yeah. Because it does, pull on us, because we're how much % water allegedly? Yeah. So, but how does it relate to like mediumship and trance?
Well, yeah. So that's I was like the assuming the qualities of the moon is assuming the qualities of the divine feminine is making yourself into a vessel for this stuff to kind of arise in, right?
Okay.
And that's kind of like what's happening in Chokmah consciousness. That's what's happening like within people who are really good at going into mediumship and trance states, that kind of thing. They are really good at slipping into that liminal space, which is basically you're doing an emulation of the divine feminine, in which spirits can arise, in which insights and predictions and that kind of thing. And there's different ways to like go about it too to get there. But the initiation into the divine feminine, which I think should be the first thing that any person that wants to do the occult should do. They initiate into the divine feminine in some way. But where it becomes a problem is that, those negative traits associated with the moon is basically the emotional turmoil, which is why I think psychology is so tied into it. The subconscious mind is so tied into it. When you are in the realm of the divine feminine and the realm of the lunar sphere, you're dealing with emotions. You're dealing with psychology at that time, because if the mirror is distorted, that you are to reflect this wisdom, this gnosis, this received insight. If it is distorted in any way, what you are projecting is an illusion. It's like being in a fun house, staring at one of those warped mirrors, right?
Well, okay, so then that could play out in a lot of ways, I guess. But like the number one thing that came to my mind right now when you said that is like when you are, and tell me if this is like what you're talking about, but like you get some gnosis, some download of whatever you want to call it, and your human logical brain filters it and
Mhm.
changes the message
Yeah.
to something that you can understand instead of just saying or understand or just accepting what was given to you.
Acceptance is a big part of it too.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's,
Assuming that
you know
quality-
this, I struggle
Yeah.
with that all the time.
Yeah.
When we do our work and I will get information and I'll be like, that can't be right.
Yeah.
You know, I all the time do that. And then I started to not do that and just saying whatever comes up. That makes zero sense at the time, but later it turns out to be something that makes sense, you know, but it's like, it's hard. That's a hard thing to do, to let go of what you feel, is right, you know?
It's very difficult. And I mean, people who are good at meditation learn how to like monitor where their thoughts are coming from, right?
I'm not good at meditation at all.
And so, that's why, meditation is an important skill to have if you're first entering, because you're able to recognize, like, is this coming from me? Is this coming from my will? And really that, like, the propensity that we have to, like, interpret something or make it fit into a worldview and stuff. I mean, that's the virgin defiled. That's inseminating the vessel. Right. You're putting your seed into, I cleared out this vessel and now I'm going to put my bullshit into it.
But it can also be that sometimes it just does align with something that you already feel because, like that you think is right, but it doesn't, probably not often.
If you receive something that aligns with you, that just means you're aligned.
Oh, that's one way to look at it.
Yeah. It's like, you're aligned with the will, Like,
holy
good
shit,
job.
thanks for that. Because I've been like, that's my struggle all the time. Is like, wait a minute, but this is like something I already feel like I know to be true. Yeah. Like, why would I be getting this? This is my own. I'm putting my own, filter on it. But I didn't think of it that way. Yeah, that's helpful. Yeah, it's very helpful. So like when you're in a trance, like in the trance state, or getting this stuff, is that like kind of akin to being back in the like the cosmic womb? And like being dissolved, like you're outside of yourself, your ego and stuff, and you're just open to receiving information.
I think that's more space. I think that's more like if you're talking about like complete ego death.
No, I mean just being out, like being able to set aside these preconceived notions that you have to get a message or get information that otherwise, if you heard it from a person per se, right? Like just example, like you heard it from a person, you would analyze it, critique it, argue with it, whatever. But because it's coming from somewhere else, it's easier to receive it for what it is. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I'm staring in the mirror right now. I feel the divine feminine in this Chili's tonight. Oh, man. Damn. Wow. Yeah, no. What you're just saying right there, just like reflecting the truth right back at me.
Yeah. I mean, I just thought like
very powerful. Yeah.
Okay.
We're both having moments here.
Yeah.
I see. This is why I love the divine feminine.
Right.
She is such an amazing thing. Yeah. Oh man, I'm getting a little teary eyed right now.
Oh. Sorry. I mean, I think that it's a lot easier to, like when you get it, I don't know, like sometimes I feel like if somebody had told me something that I've gotten in a moment of like silence in my head that just pops in, that I would kind of dismiss it, right? But I don't, because it's something that came in a time of silence in my head, Yeah. And it means something more than if somebody else in their, kind of filtered state would be able to get that message across to me, right?
Yeah.
Like that recently happened, like where I just started to see like, oh my gosh, like something I've been struggling with for decades. And I just out of nowhere, just boom, oh my gosh, I see what that is now. And it just came. And I am sure many people have told me this before, but I just didn't hear it because it was like coming from them.
Yeah.
And I perceive that as they've got some kind of agenda to tell me this, like whatever. But this time when it came to me, maybe it was just the right timing or something, but it was like heard, finally. And then as soon as that happened, it was like all of these like filter just got removed, and I was like, I see exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to before, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I think a lot of with this divine feminine thing, like when you're gonna get some like connection with it, that's really meaningful, it's likely going to be something that you've tried every single thing you can to try to figure it out and logic it out and like, you know, sort it out amongst the
reason your way. Or you're gonna use this to fix this, right?
Right. Yeah. And you think you got there maybe, but then not really.
That's always like the funniest thing to me is like when like your problem is like when you're having issues with your perception or your thinking and that kind of stuff, and so your solution to that is to like think your way out of it,
right?
Yeah,
I mean that's the tools we've been given here, right? You know,
well, that's what we're told to do,
right?
Yeah,
that's what
which is ridiculous,
right? I mean, but like the difference between reasoning it out and thinking you've come to some solution or understanding of it compared to actually having the understanding of it given to you like that is a world of difference. Because
so understanding is a higher principle too. Like that is divine principle too, you know. Understanding, it's not you don't like the thing is, let's say somebody came up to me and they were like, my kid died yesterday.
Oh God. Yeah.
And I told them I understand. It's like, no, I don't.
No, God, and nor do you want to.
No,
yeah.
I don't have the context for that.
Right.
I wouldn't ever tell that person I understand, right? Understanding is something that is given to you too.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. Like the understanding that happened recently, like the shift in my perception of the issue that had been a problem for all my entire life. Yeah. I can't go back now. Yeah. I can't go backwards to viewing it the same way as I did before, which was like this calamitous thing that was always like in my way, etc. And now I'm just like, oh my gosh, I see it now. Yeah. I see exactly what it was doing. And again, like this is one of those moments where I just accept, like I saw it for what it was, and now I see it for what it is. It's a difference in like, just like there's a difference to it. I don't know how else to put it. Like that information comes to you in a way that kind of knocks down all of the things that you've been trying to struggle with or like reason out, you know, and it's like, oh no, it's much more, at the end of the day, it was much simpler than I was making it. Yeah. You know? Mm-hmm. But I could have found that in a book or something maybe, but I wouldn't have listened to it the same way. Yeah. It has to, like, when you find something in a book, it also has to be coupled with like that timing. Yeah. And you need to have that like feeling where it's like ding. Yeah. Like, like whole body's like, holy crap. Okay. Yeah. Wait. Whoa. That happens to you all the time. I know. It happens when people talk to me and like when I'm reading and stuff. Yeah. That's what I like. I don't know. Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think that's how that stuff reaches me. Like it knows how I am. So it's like, I'm going to reach him through this dumb book he's reading or whatever. Yeah. Dumb book. No dumb books. Yeah, that's, I mean, yeah, it's definitely one of those things where it you'll know it, I think, when it happens. Yeah. I hope. Yeah. Maybe not. Maybe you weren't ready. Yeah. So, I mean, we can't walk away from the divine feminine, though, without approaching the infamous chemical marriage. Right. Okay. Yeah. Right. So let's talk about that. Yeah. And that's the great work, right? It's part of it. Yeah. The conjunction, which is when you unite the sun and the moon. Right. Right. And if you go to a Gnostic mass with the OTO, you might witness two people having sex, you know, because that's what it, you know. If you go to some Wicca covens, you might witness man and woman having sex, because they, you know, saw the sun and the moon. It's the male and female. Oh yeah, let's not probe that any deeper. Let's just have two people have sex. Like, in my opinion, means like when a man and woman have sex. No, I didn't think so. I've never thought that. I've always thought that's just gratuitous bullshit. This is a misappropriation or misunderstanding of the divine feminine. Right. So there's a difference between goddess of womanhood and divine womanhood and the divine feminine. Right. And what we've explored so far is the divine feminine is this kind of transcendent kind of principle that
births everything,
Right.
births experience, and it does it through paradox and dualism, but it is not one end of duality, it is duality itself.
Right.
Yeah. And so the profane way to look at this, and this is one of the highest alchemical mysteries that I don't think, you know, Crowley or Gardner ever got anywhere close to. I don't think. So the medieval alchemists, they believed the soul was a woman.
Mm-hmm.
They believed that it was a female. And in their literature, they had many names for it. Sometimes it would be the moon. Sometimes it would be the hen. The hen was very, very, very big. And then if you look at the black hen, which is a symbol in witchcraft, in Satanism, for Satan himself, right? And so, like, what would the black hen be? It would be the putrefied soul, right?
Right.
So once again, we're going back to putrefaction, which is the first stage of alchemy. We're going back to the Black Madonna. There's a soul that is covered in decay and death. And that's what the black hen represents. And of course, that would emerge as a symbol of Satan, right? But the hen itself, you'll see the cock and the hen. That is a really popular medieval alchemical symbol, and it actually comes from Zosimus of Panopolis, who was Zosimus of Panopolis was one of the very few historical alchemists that completed the great work, so to speak, and he was the first alchemist on record that wrote about philosophical alchemy, and he's from Egypt, and he had a initiate that was a woman that he performed the great work with. And of course, the profane are going to assume that they were doing some kind of sex magic together.
Right.
Yeah. It's the same as the profane assume that Fulcanelli and his wife are doing some kind of sex magic in order to complete the androgen. But if you pay attention to the alchemical literature and you investigate into the alchemical literature, they believe that God was the cock and the soul was the hen. And this ties into Christian mysticism, right? We go all the way back to those nuns that believe that they are brides of Jesus, right? And if you read Abrahamic literature, like Abrahamic mystics, they view their soul as female, and they describe themselves as brides. And so that alchemical conjunction, the uniting of the sun and the moon, is the uniting of the microcosm with the macrocosm, the reflective principle with the active principle, making them one again, right?
That's what I would think. That's what I thought. I didn't think it had to do with sex.
Exactly. So you'll see in the medieval alchemical literature, or in the Islamic medieval alchemical literature, the Muslim alchemists were very poetic, and they have these nearly erotic descriptions of their of their performance when they were coming into mystic union with God, right? And that the Muslims were the ones that were maintaining and pushing forward the alchemical tradition while it was completely eradicated from Europe. And when that alchemical literature made its way from the Caliphate, in which they are talking about this eroticism with God, and they're talking about the cock and the hen as these alchemical symbols. And this is coming from philosophical alchemical literature, not the technical stuff, you know? The Europeans who became the Middle Age alchemists of Europe and evolved into the Renaissance, they started putting this symbolism into, you know, the famous European alchemical artwork, right? This has like been distorted and filtered and filtered and filtered until we hit the 19th century, and it turns into this just, well, you know, the conjunction is you get two initiates or adepts together and they have sex or whatever.
It's so basic. It just seems so like I don't know, man. That just seems like really lazy to me. I feel like
I'm saying if somebody successfully performs conjunctio, I mean, you're talking like Enoch levels of mystical union, right? Like I went to heaven and I saw the throne of God and that kind of stuff. Like that's what, like,
I feel like it's like it's the knowing that you're a part of it. Like it's not the separateness that we experience here.
Yeah.
That chemical marriage is understanding that you're literally it is you. You know, but knowing it is different than thinking it or believing it.
Well, having that mystical experience where you come into direct communion with God, with God or whatever, and that you don't see people from the OTO or Alexandrian Wicca coming out of that talking about their mystical experience of communion in all oneness. You just see them like, you know,
hooking up with each other.
Yeah, just you know.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, like so, my understanding of that because of the experience that I did have was very clear, so I understand.
Yeah.
And that's why I think I've always been kind of like I had this visceral reaction to the idea of the other ways that people, you know, like play it out, right? With this like gratuitous sex nonsense is just a way to kind of, I don't know, like to like, you know, participate in that and say it's some kind of holy thing.
Yeah.
You know, which is highly undervaluing like the actual purpose of or like the whole meaning of it actually.
Well, it's undervalued to if the moon as an alchemical symbol is supposed to be representing the soul, right? And the entire mysteries of the divine feminine are telling us like still the soul, like clean, serene waters, like that kind of stuff, still the soul so that you can contemplate or that you can experience deity or the other side or like whatever it is, right? And you're kind of like bringing it down into this like, oh, this is actually a symbol of what the sex act means for womanhood. You've lost it.
Right. That's what I mean.
Like you have lost the divine feminine. Like you are
because
not
it's
there.
the opposite of that. Like it's opposite. Right. And that's so like with regard to like the more modern interpretation of divine feminine. Right. That was my first like foray into like when I started studying it as like very young, like Wicca, right? Because that's the first thing basically everybody gets into, I guess, you know, especially when you're a girl, young. And it was all about all of the things, the opposite of everything that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Just like, you know, it's just completely opposite of what I think the original meaning is.
Well, yeah, because I mean, the divine feminine is an esoteric term. It's from Western esotericism. It's not from an occult group. It's from this long tradition that we have of engaging with this kind of dual, receptive, reflective, cosmic birthing principle.
Right.
And it goes back thousands and thousands of years, right?
Right.
The kind of misappropriation of it to justify the various sexual abuses committed within occult orders is I mean, that's what it is.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Well, no, it's not just a thing, but it's also like you have to look. So the use of like, let's say like something bad happened to you and you were disgusted by sex and you never wanted to have sex. You should probably be using your magic and occultism to engage in more sex to get over that.
Yeah.
But if you walk into an occult order and you are libertine that is treating people's bodies as dopamine procedures,
right?
And so you're joining an order to
do
because that order's principles or theology or whatever it is reinforces these things that you already walk around with. You are digging yourself deeper into that hole. You are not transforming. You are digging yourself deeper into darkness, into separation. Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, it works the other way. Like if there's a reason, like if you are afraid of sex, you know, and so you latch on to, you know, something that allows you to be a Puritan and judge people for
right.
Then you're doing the same thing.
Well,
you're hurting
opposite
yourself
ends of
there.
the spectrum, right? Instead of being in the middle.
It's like, so the thing is, like, I don't think you should be. I don't think it's appropriate to be using the divine feminine as an excuse to like let's say somebody has like a BDSM kink. Yeah. So like we're a divine feminine cult and we exalt BDSM.
Oh, that happens. That's very common.
Like that. Like that's not magic. That's not esoterics, and you're defiling what that word means.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean,
a lot of people are gonna disagree with that, but But
I don't care. Like me neither. I don't even participate in, like, I'm not a part of that current or that.
No, I know. I'm just saying like that's right now, that especially with the younger generations definitely have kind of gravitated to that idea that it's like
the youth is always going to like young people are always going to gravitate towards libertine behaviors as they're exploring themselves, right? But as one grows up and starts to develop different priorities, then that's when.
But that's really mundane stuff. Like it's just like the sex aspect of it is just mundane. Like it's like anyone can do it. Everybody does it. Yeah. It's like there's nothing special there in this sense. Like I'm not saying that there's nothing special about sex. I'm just saying that in this sense is like it's the wrong. It's being used incorrectly like that.
So I mean, there's a difference though, because I mean the divine feminine does not entail all goddesses, right? The divine feminine can be accessed through certain goddesses that participate in the qualities and the attributes of the divine feminine,
right?
Whereas there is a dual principle, right? There are other goddesses that do not participate in the divine feminine. There are sex goddesses. There are goddesses in charge of womanhood, like that kind of stuff. But by understanding, by what we've just done, by walking through comparative religion and comparative esoterics, we've been able to identify some core themes and some important things in order to, find how we approach the divine feminine through one of her god forms or that kind of stuff.
And those things are pervasive throughout us, like throughout our existence, like the themes that keep repeating over and over again, right? Like, and as opposed to the ones that are just solely about one thing.
And so I know that we brought up Chokmah, and like I explained how I believe Chokmah is a feminine principle and belongs to the divine feminine. But Yesod, if you're going up the other end of the tree, is where the sphere of Luna, and that is foundation, and that's where you go from the earth, from Malkuth, where you are right now, and in order to approach everything else up there and the level, you have to go through Yesod, have to go through the moon, and Yesod means foundation, right? So the divine feminine is your foundation.
All. Yeah. Right. It makes sense. Totally makes sense. I mean, I think I learned a lot in this right now. Especially.
It's been great. I know that there's a lot of people that aren't gonna like what I have to say about it, but that's
don't care.
Yeah. It's okay.
You should have heard the rant I had the last time we tried.
Last time, I know. Well, it's because we just finished watching that.
Oh God.
Harvard Divinity School. Yeah, it was Harvard Divinity School, and they had a lecture about the divine feminine, and the example that they were using was an online BDSM cult that was into like domination. They're like, this is like how the divine feminine like manifests here, and it's like, no, that's how sexual abuse manifests in the cult, which is a real fucking problem.
It is, but it's also, and I'll just, it's also like when people have sexual trauma, right? A lot of the time, women, I can only speak on women because I'm a woman, but a lot of the time in our earlier years, we're going to, go on that route of like, I'm going to take my power back and kind of do what I want in that regard. Yeah. And thinking that it's going to kind of erase this like violation that we had. But in the end, it doesn't. It actually adds to it. And then we have to spend more time undoing that.
Because you've now introduced religious abuse and power abuse by joining an order that is using sex. That is using sex abuse,
right? Yeah. And it got under the guise of
initiation or under the guise of transcendence and stuff,
or like overcoming your trauma. But like in reality, you're just being re-traumatized and re-victimized again. Yeah. because that's not what needs to happen, and that's therapy needs to happen in those cases.
Therapy,
seriously, and you know, forgiveness for, you know, like of yourself for having to experience that, like has nothing to do with having more sex. It's gratuitous sex.
And it's like I've seen in my time in the occult, I was involved in 3 different orders, and all 3 of those orders I left because I found out that like a lot older people were using their positions to initiate teenagers. You know? And nobody fucking talks about it.
Well, just like in the church,
it's because they're all protecting each other. They're like, well, this is like they're in their tiny little bubble, and it's a power bubble, and the only power that they have is that people are like trying to keep like silent in the club, and so they're never going to address it themselves. They'll never talk about what goes on in their orders, you know. And anybody that's been through, it's like, oh well, I swore an oath, or I don't want to piss I don't want to piss my teacher off, I don't want to piss my friends off, and like I'm very I don't know, it's just always,
so you're adding to your by being complacent.
Like, this is sex magic, the myth of sex magic that is used to abuse people and manipulate people is like I don't know, I got on the shit list of a bunch of satanic orders for exposing that.
But good for you, because that's bullshit, and that's just people hiding, and they've been doing that for eons, ever since, you know, religion became a thing. And it's, we hear about it all the time now in the news, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like one of the criticisms we always like lodge at institutional faiths. Like we lodge it at, you know, rabbis, you know, do weird things with babies. And don't trust your boys around a Catholic priest, and Muhammad was a pedophile. Like we say all this stuff all the time. And we turn and we're like, I'm not participating though. They're a bunch of, you know, sex abusers and that kind of stuff. And then we turn around and we're like, I'm going to go and forge my own path. And then you go and join an order. And it's like, we've literally ritualized and standardized sexual abuse, you know?
And that has nothing to do with...
We can get away with it because it's part of our doctrines, right? Yeah,
that has nothing to do with anything divine. It has to do with everything, like criminal, actually, you know, in that regard. Taking advantage of anybody that's in a vulnerable state is wrong. Well,
I mean, like, that's why I think it's like really important that people get exposed to primary sources and primary literature, especially like alchemy, because alchemy is where a lot of the stuff comes from.
Right.
And then, like, I guess you could make like Vamachara or left hand path tantra or whatever. Like, they do use sex, but they use sex as a taboo, because it's taboo in that society to ritualize sex, right?
Right.
Which I don't think is like necessarily taboo here anymore.
Not anymore.
But if you're looking at the alchemical literature, the alchemical marriage and that kind of stuff, the justification that a lot of modern occultism gives is like, well, it's sexual alchemy or something like that. And it's like, if you would read the actual sources, if you took the time, to unlock alchemy, to read the actual sources, you know, and to learn what those symbols mean, they're not talking about the sex act.
No,
you know,
they're not. But it's easier for people to just, you know, blindly believe what they read the first time they read it.
To justify your own beliefs and worldviews and that kind of stuff.
That's what most people do, is they find something that resonates with them, and they're like, that's it. Here, I found it. It's in black and white.
Yeah.
Right. But where did that come from? The likeliness of someone actually taking the time to go in a deep dive on that is not something most people will do.
Yep.
You know, it is what that is, unfortunately.
I just, like, this is not puritanical or prudish or anything. It's just
I mean,
it's a problem. You know?
It is, and it's not divine. Again, it has nothing to do with that.
I mean, it hurts a lot of people.
Yep.
You know, it hurts yourself mostly.
It does.
If you believe in magic, like, you should understand how that hurts. Like, doing that kind of stuff hurts your spiritual state, your soul,
of course,
your abilities as a magician.
Right. Well, because you're not acting in good faith.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, I had like this. I learned so much this time. This is definitely better than the first time we did this.
Yeah.
I think that.
Yeah, we were
Divinity
really
School,
ticked off about
yeah,
that
it was
lecture.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Harvard.
I know.
God, what's going on there, man? But yeah, I like learned a lot, and I can't believe like that. I got, oh my gosh, I got to write about that.
Yeah.
Tonight, because that was crazy. Mitochondrial DNA, guys.
Yeah. So before we go, I'm gonna I started making these.
Oh yeah,
these
let me.
little,
What is this, Abammon? These are so beautiful.
What is this? Wow, this is amazing.
It is. It's
I
so,
am
it's
now
amazing.
making talismans. This right here is a scrying dish, and
I love
this
it.
is really powerful because this is a magic circle that I have made myself. These are my own magic circles that I have reconstructed from medieval Arabic literature.
Yep.
So these are magic circles that you're not gonna get anywhere. They're
else.
not from Agrippa. They're not from the Lifeless Levi, but they're
from
powerful.
Abammon.
Look
Yeah,
at how
beautiful.
many,
I love
geometries and spirits are on it.
Yeah.
And these spirits are actually very unique class of spirits. So these are celestial spirits.
Yes.
They're jinn, right?
Yes.
They're jinn, yes. So you put your little crystal on here or your little candle or whatever you're trying to put the spirit into, you put it on the
You
scrying
put water
plate.
in there too?
You can put water in there. The more reflective ones you can scry in directly because they have a mirror surface. This right here is pewter, so it has lead in it. So this is actually a scrying plate for Saturn and his gem.
Oh, and today is Saturday.
Today is Saturday, yes. That's why I'm wearing the black get up and everything. So anyways.
Pink because of
divine feminine,
Yes.
So
and
anyways,
I got these shoes.
I got plenty of these scrying plates, talismans for sale on my website, AbammonTheGreat.com.
Let me just say that, like, I know he does it all by hand, and it's really amazing.
That's it.
Okay.
You've been listening to Discourse, where we venture into the mysteries of esotericism, the occult, and the depths of spiritual exploration. I am Abammon the Great, joined as always by Dr. Anna Stone, bringing adept insights to help guide your journey. Remember, the path of wisdom is illuminated by both knowledge and experience. Until next time, continue your exploration and stay attuned to the unseen.